Hello once again and welcome to Call the Mayor Wichita, your chance to ask some questions, no holds barred. You can ask anything you like. We have topics that we'll be going over and introducing Jeff Longwell, our esteemed mayor. Thanks for being here again.
Great to be here with you, as always.
As always. Hey, look, we've got a video put together. It's kind of a special treat. This is something new. Give us the 30-second bit of what this is, and I watched it. It's about 10 minutes, and it's, well, it's well produced and pretty good.
Our own staff put it all together. They do an outstanding job, and gives us an opportunity to share with the community some of the things that don't always get reported, and wanted to kind of give an update on our finances and our focus on public safety and what we weren't able to include in there, but maybe we can share tonight because we just got notification that we're a finalist for All-American City.
Which is awesome, by the way.
Which is very awesome.
Not that many cities make it on the list, so we are nominated. It's official, so we got a pretty good shot, don't we?
Well, I think so, and we still have another process to go through that will allow us an opportunity to go share and sell our city in front of a panel, and that's next step, and then hopefully we get picked.
Well, the step of going in front of a panel should be easy. I know a lot of people like being from Wichita now. It's kind of in vogue, and people have some swagger for, hey, I'm from Wichita, so that's kind of cool. I'm sure we'll do very well. Well, let's go right to the video. Enjoy, and keep in mind the number here is 316-491-5787. Let's get you in queue. You can get us on Facebook, get in line, get your questions, and we might have some questions that come up through the video. Let's have a look at that right now.
Wichita has always served as a place for innovators and visionaries to write new chapters in our history. From our early days as the air capital to our adopted moniker of the opportunity capital, Wichita is known for carrying an entrepreneurial spirit and the fearlessness to embrace growth. Our leaders were proud people, and so are we. The sense of pride remains at the core of every decision we make, every building we build, and ingrained in every program we develop. As a community, we must embrace the challenges we face and forge ahead into the bright future that is just around the corner. All we have to do is walk steadily toward it. I'm Mayor Jeff Longwell, and I'm happy to update you on the state of our city. Thank you for taking time from your busy schedules to tune in on city television, online, and on social media. I'd also like to recognize the members of our City Council, for without their leadership, we would not be able to develop a broad range of projects and programs that move our community forward in the areas of scholarships and job opportunities for those who need a little extra help, and for countless quality of life initiatives that make each day a little better. The ability to live well is a key attractor for Wichita. Supporting quality of life is crucial as we poise ourselves for growth. The recent Livability.com study measured employment rate strength over time, affordability, and community amenities. And Wichita was ranked in the top cities for work-life balance. There is a new energy that is developing in the city that is anchored by increased development and investments.
1, 2, and 3.
We've begun building a beautiful new stadium that the fathers of baseball in Wichita would be proud of, and we look forward to our new AAA team playing in the spring of 2020. Along with baseball, the arts make our community more well-rounded and attractive to those who are contemplating moving here. After it was in jeopardy of being torn down, we listened to the community and helped save the historic Starlight Drive-In and preserve an institution that is also fond memories for many Wichitans. Speaking of childhood memories, we heard from the community and have developed a new aquatics plan that not only keeps 6 neighborhood pools open, it also allows for splash pads to be built throughout the city for extra summertime fun. There is no doubt that entertainment is important. We are evaluating what to do with the Century 2 building and how to best address our need for both convention and performing arts space that will lead us into the future and will honor our past. We have also developed a regional sports complex that is already hosted in its first large-scale regional tournament in a climate-controlled setting. Investing in arts and entertainment isn't just important to maintaining our quality of life. Studies show that they contribute a conservative $94 million to our community each year and make us more attractive to employers and workers. Our economy is headed in the right direction, and so is the growth of our workforce. We are much more diverse than 10 years ago and are vigorously investing in and continuing to diversify our employer base and recruiting new sectors and talent. Our partnerships with Project Wichita, the Greater Wichita Partnership, REAP, Workforce Alliance, and the Chamber of Commerce, just to name a few, are helping us to recruit talent, increase training, and improve the perception of our city and region. We work to help with training programs that can help citizens stay competitive and train tomorrow's workforce. Job skills and preparedness training by WSU Tech, Workforce Alliance, and our own housing and community services help us grow our trained workforce, which makes us attractive to large employers such as Spirit, Coke, and Cargill. The Wichita Public Library, in partnership with Grow with Google, provides computer skills training to help citizens compete in today's technical workforce. We recently launched a program that lends Wi-Fi hotspots to the community to help bridge the digital divide. We're in a good spot. Wichita's unemployment rate is at a historically low 3.5%. And WSU forecasts that Wichita is expected to see an across-the-board increase in overall jobs this year. We continue to work to recruit new employers, talent, and opportunity for our region. Ensuring we have a strong infrastructure is crucial. We are keenly focused on investing in our neighborhood streets as well as our arterials each year because we want to make your commute smoother. We're thrilled at the high ridership of Bike Share ICT and our free Q-Line trolleys. And their success drives our interest in exploring all sorts of transportation, including passenger rail. We are shoring up our water infrastructure by preparing to invest in a new facility. I'm proud of how we've extended the life of our current facility by over 20 years, past its anticipated lifespan, and how Council was able to work together to determine a payment schedule that provides for generational equity. So far, I've addressed a lot of tangible accomplishments, but nothing matters more to me than having a community that feels safe and knows that when they need help, someone from the city will be there to assist. Wichita now leads the way in Kansas by arming its police force with body cams for every officer. This year, we went one step further by updating them so that we can better protect our officers and increase our transparency and accountability to the public. In late 2018, we also launched a shot detection system pilot program to detect gunshots throughout the city and improve response times. Now, we are taking the lead with the way this technology can be used in other crime-fighting areas. We continued to increase our support for public safety and now have 60 more commissioned officers on the street than we had 3 years ago. Many of these people are focused on addressing the root of crime through community policing efforts. And Wichita is proud to have been rated #1 in its fire safety efforts. Only a few fire departments across the country have received this highest of designations, so it should not come as a surprise that it's a very difficult designation to achieve. This #1 rating is good news for Wichitans because it sends a signal to insurance companies that Wichita places a lot of emphasis on fire protection, who then lower your yearly rate on insurance. We are also partnering with Sedgwick County to take a comprehensive look at the behavioral health issues because this greatly affects our ability to use our law enforcement personnel in the best way possible. Our homeless outreach team continues to connect homeless individuals with services and programs to help them not only find shelter or food, but to address the root cause of homelessness. In fact, the HOT team, as we call them, has been recognized by safety officials at the White House as a model program for the rest of the country. There is a major gap in state and local behavioral health funding that has a direct impact on our crime rates and the workload of our officers. We are requesting the state to help fill this gap with significant financial and agency support. This would include improvements in how the state handles releases for probation and parole, and decrease the amount of paroled violent offenders in our community. The safety of our community continues to be a key focus for the council. Just 5 years ago, we were behind the rest of the country in terms of recovering from the economic downturn. We needed to diversify our employer base, invest in our infrastructure, shore up our safety, and focus on our quality of life. And now we have a lot to be proud of. Thanks to the leadership of a strong city council, dedicated public servants, and community organizations, I look around this great city and I see many tangible things that we can all be proud of. I'm not alone. Project Wichita surveyed almost 14,000 Wichitans, and over 66% said they are optimistic about the future of the Wichita region. All too often, the core city services of public safety, infrastructure, and economic development are forgotten as we go about our daily lives, until, of course, something goes wrong. The pothole we encounter on the way to work reminds us there are people taking care of our roadways. Officers come running to help when most people are running away, keep us safe. And caretakers who remove graffiti from our favorite parks keep this city beautiful. Our 17 city departments serve with pride and are a source of pride for this community. The strides we have made this year are staggering because we have something no other city has: the potential to involve, the potential to create, and the potential to transform the city as only Wichita can. I look forward to sitting with you side by side with our sleeves rolled up, shaping our future together, and further developing a Wichita that we will be proud to pass along to our next generation.
Okay, so that Jeff Longwell guy, he was pretty good, huh?
He did a fine job.
He did.
That's a nice update.
There's a lot to unpack here, but first thing, did you do that in one take or did you stop? Because that was, as a public speaker, that's a lot to do in one sitting.
We did it all in one take.
You're not kidding?
Not kidding.
Okay, I'm impressed. I am. Look, as far as this goes, this gave people a chance to really see what the city's up to. What was the thought process going into that? I know we've already got a call from SIG. Hold on, we'll get to your call. The number here is 316-491-5787. We've got questions already coming in, but what was the thought process and why do this? Get this out.
So we used to do State of the City in a different way. It was more of a bit of a show, invite people into City Hall,
sure,
stand up in front of a room full of people. Yeah. And we just felt that it meant more by putting it out in a way that we could hit a lot of different mediums. And we talked about things that don't always get picked up in the news. And so we wanted to educate the folks on things that they don't often get an opportunity to hear about.
Let me jump in there too, because I know when it comes to the news media, being a member, oftentimes you come in with a question, you've got something you'd like to get covered as a news person, but you feel there are some quality elements about Wichita that maybe don't always make it into the news. They might make it into one outlet, but not two or not three, and maybe not newspaper, maybe not radio. But how did you kind of pick and choose this? I guess you had a group of people together.
So we did, and certainly there were some key elements that everyone agreed on and said we ought to share this with the community, and this should be our focus. And public safety has always been our #1 priority, so certainly letting them know that we are focused on that. We're putting our resources where we think that it can do the most good. I mean, 60 additional officers on the street today versus 3 years ago, that's $6 million. It cost about $100,000 per officer to pay them and equip them. And body cameras now. Right, and all of the things they need. That's a $6 million addition to the budget that we did without raising the taxes of the citizens of this city.
I would expect that a lot of people would have that question, but you just answered it, as well as, you know, the whole baseball stadium. That's a unique financing mechanism that you put together here, and a lot of people have questioned it, but a lot of people have also said, you know, well done. This is a very creative thing that you've come up with here, and AAA baseball is going to be coming to Wichita. Let's get right to the calls. 316-491-5787. By the way, still, Wichita's got swagger. I will add that, and I'm glad to see some of that feel in the video. Wichita's got some swagger. It's nice to be from Wichita right now, so that's good to see. Sig, you are on the air with Call the Mayor. What is your question?
My question, good evening, first of all. Mayor, we appreciate you, and we're your fans. You're welcome, sir. We bought a house, and we lived in the northwest side since 1982. And so far, over the years, our road has never been repaved completely.
Okay.
And I was wondering if there is a plan or a step plan that will take into repaving the streets.
Absolutely. And great question. I'm not sure exactly northwest where you live. I also live in northwest Wichita and have since 1980. We are focusing on neighborhoods now. We want to repair neighborhood streets. And so you can go online to the city website under our public works and pull up which neighborhoods are being worked on next. But I can tell you just from memory that the section of neighborhood that's between Central and 13th and between Ridge and Tyler is going to be the next neighborhood that gets totally rebuilt streets. Those are a little bit older streets in there and certainly have decayed to the point where they need to be totally rebuilt and not just patched. And so we're starting to do that literally one neighborhood at a time in different parts of the city. But you can go on our website and see that. And so we're putting more money into streets. We want to invest in neighborhoods because we believe if we invest, the community will invest and homeowners will feel the pride.
And homeowners might choose to stay here if they have a job offer
Absolutely.
somewhere else. And too,
Absolutely.
I was given this question last week. They wanted me to ask you, and I don't know if I gave them the right answer. I said, watch the show. She said she was going to watch the show, but they were asking about, look, we live in city limits of Wichita. We live on a road that is sand. She called it a sand pit because it wasn't a great road.
Sure.
But her question was, what does it take to get a road paved in some of the outlying areas that are still in Wichita? And I said, I think the neighborhood has to all kind of sign off on it. Was I correct on that?
Absolutely. And so when we have those dirt streets, some of them we have in the middle of the city, unfortunately still, the neighbors need to pass a petition among them, sign a petition, and be willing to put an additional set of special assessments on their property, usually relatively low cost. In many cases, it could be as little as $20 or $30 a month over a 15-year period.
And to explain for people that may not be familiar with it, again, a special assessment is only going to be for a certain geographical area. It's not something that would spread through the entire district or certainly the whole city.
It's just the area that the petition's passed.
So you draw the boundary.
And so you draw the boundary.
They'd be assessed the special.
And it's just the folks that benefit by it. And so.
And again, if it's $20 or $30 a month, I'm guessing the city portion is going to be more than that.
We try and do 100% cost recovery on the 100%. Initial build out.
Okay, on the initial build.
On the initial build out, and then of course the next time we go in there, the city doesn't assess that.
Okay.
To the homeowner.
Well, I call the mayor. This is your chance. You can find us on Facebook. And by the way, if you're watching and you got to take off and you got to take the kids to something tonight, you can catch us on YouTube too. So
absolutely,
we'll be here. So you can watch us there. But connect us through Facebook. Call us right now. 316-491-5787 is the number. You can ask anything you'd like, even about the mayor and his three-point percentage. Do you still shoot three-pointers when you play basketball?
I had one of my best shooting days ever on Wednesday morning at 4:30 in the morning at the YMCA.
At 4:30 in the morning. This is why I don't play basketball.
Now, it doesn't happen every time anymore, but Wednesday morning I had one of my best shooting performances in some time.
Well,
felt pretty good.
That's impressive. And for a man of, what, 38?
Yeah, at least. Yeah, okay. 38 about 15 times over.
Let's go with that. Not 50 times. Let's go with that. I'm glad to hear that. That's fun. I like it that you still play basketball, and I've been told you're good at it. Look, 316-491-5787 is the number. I do want to get back to the State of the City address. When you talked about that, you brought in a lot of things, but one of those is streets and street improvements and what we're doing. I do know there's an app that you can go to within the city. You can find it on the city webpage. If you have a pothole, you can actually take a picture of it. You can get your phone out and you can go ahead and send that into the city and they'll get there. How has that program been? Has it been a successful program?
Oh, absolutely.
Taking a picture and sending it in?
And what people need to understand, when you use that app, take a picture and send it in, it goes straight into our Public Works Department and gets on the list quicker than you calling them. So it goes right into the work order.
So you can take advantage of that if you have a pothole.
So oftentimes if those get reported that way, the crew will be out there that same day filling it.
Okay, that's impressive. If you get questions, 316-491-5787. Of course, reach out to us on Facebook. If you're there, just start typing and get us a question. They'll hand them to me here. I did want to ask you, too, about the amenities that you showed in the video. You had a very specific set of amenities. It made Wichita look good, but with all the development we've had, that's not hard to do. Baseball, we want to get back to baseball because we've had a lot of questions remain about baseball.
Sure.
There's been some criticism in the media about transparency and asking questions about that. But as far as the baseball goes, I do know that there was a point in time when you could go public with certain things, but there was a point in time when you could not do that. And that gets back to, I'll say, correct me if I'm wrong again, but places like Tulsa or Overland Park in the Kansas City area, they might be competing for what we're competing for. Right. So maybe it's some of these things aren't supposed to be in public.
No, and the other city they have to protect is the city that the team's potentially moving from. And so while you're negotiating, until you have what you believe is a negotiated contract, you can't reveal any of that because you don't want to do any damage to the city they're coming from. In this case, the team was able to replace the AAA team with a AA team. And so they're going to continue with the team in New Orleans, but it'll be AA instead of AAA, and then we become the AAA city. And it's a fairly complicated process.
Yes. There's a lot to it, and there are many different layers.
And there are permissions that you have to get from Major League Baseball. Major League Baseball also vets all of the owners. And so when people want to know who makes up that ownership, because the team wants to have some local ownership, they're in the process now of being vetted by Major League Baseball. And I've been told that that could be a 2 to 3 month process. And so we don't reveal them until they've been vetted, because if they don't make it through the vetting process, they're not part of the ownership group. Yes. And so that complicates things a little bit. But the nice thing with the structure and the deal that we have today, so ultimately at the end of the day we gave up 4 acres, right? It
was out there in certain media circles.
So 124, and 124 was 4 acres.
But it's 4 acres, and that was, you say that was from the beginning of the negotiations. That's something that ownership group wanted to be able to develop, and it's my understanding they're in the process of kind of developing that now and doing that now. I understand that there's a church on that corner that might be willing to sell now and keep a footprint inside that. But
now, and that's a different development group. So
Correct.
The church isn't going to the team. You have 2 different development groups. But let me say this. 20 years ago, all you had to do was build a stadium and a team would come. That's not the case today, because teams understand when they bring a team, development happens, and they want to be a part of that development. But here's what we get for 4 acres. We get $38 million in a wide variety of revenues from property tax, sales tax, different revenue streams coming from the 4 acres. $38 million in 20 years. We also get $600,000 in cash from the team every year. $600,000 in cash.
And that's annually?
That's annually.
Over the life of this?
Well, their contract's 30 years.
30 years.
So at least for the next 30 years, we will get $600,000 cash from the team.
So from that point, if you want to take that in theory over 30 years, that alone would, knowing the value of lands in the area, that would more than pay for that 4 acres.
Well, 3 years will pay for the 4 acres.
Yeah.
Okay. To put it in perspective, over the last 10 years, we've been generating $25,000 a year in revenue. $25,000 a year in revenue total. That's been the city's share from the stadium proceeds is $25,000. So now we're going to get $600,000 plus property tax, sales tax, and other revenue streams that'll equal $38 million over the next 20 years. And those go on in perpetuity. They don't end. It generates new income coming into the city then.
And for those of you who are not attorneys, in perpetuity means what? Forever. It just
forever.
Just keeps going. It
just keeps going.
We'll get back to that thought in a moment. We do have a call, and I want to get to the callers. You can call in 316-491-5787 is the number. Joan, you are on the show with Call the Mayor. What is your question about our parks in Wichita?
Recently, hi, Mr. Mayor. I just recently been at the Pawnee Prairie Park, and I noticed that there's a lot of underbrush, and it needs a little bit cleanup here and there, and it's really a nice place. And I was thinking, is it possible for the city to come up with a master plan to identify what needs to get done, and then kind of ship off that wish list to like the local Boy Scouts so that they can use it for their Eagle projects.
Sure, that's a great idea. Now, part of that park at Pawnee Prairie is natural habitat, and so they allow some of that to grow up. But they have started putting together a master plan. Your council member, who is currently the vice mayor, Jeff Longwell, and doing an outstanding job, is working on some amenities that they're going to put in that park, and he's using the proceeds from the sale of the Hyatt to put those amenities in that park, and it's really going to make a difference for the neighborhood around there. But I like your idea of getting the community more involved. We ought to be looking at some of these civic groups that want to make a difference and sometimes just participate because of the pride that they have in their community. And so that's a great suggestion. I appreciate that.
That is a good suggestion. I talked to the vice mayor about that, and I wasn't that familiar with the park, but I looked at the rundown of what all's there, and the great potential there, and I'm glad to see people out enjoying that. We do have a Facebook question that we'll get to. We do have a caller. We'll get to you in just a second. This one came in first, 316-491-5787 is the number. But on Facebook, we got this question in. Are there going to be any skyboxes at the new baseball stadium? And let me just jump in right here and say, if there's a skybox, first of all, I'd love to be in it. Secondly, my pet project with all this, can we get us, you mentioned in the video, the state of the city, we're collecting and keeping 6 of our city pools. You're also including some splash pads.
Right.
But here's my question, can we get a splash pad out at the baseball stadium?
So they've talked about that.
Yeah.
They want to put some amenities in the baseball stadium for families to enjoy, and so they're looking at what is the perfect amenity out there. But absolutely there's going to be some sky boxes, and they're really going to be some of the best in baseball, and so you're going to see luxury suites that will hold 20 people comfortably. And then for those that don't want to buy a seat, you can buy a game ticket to the club level seats. They'll sell 175 of them. It will hold 350 people, so they want to make sure they have plenty of room for the people that don't want to buy a season skybox. But you can buy a ticket to the club level, which is on the same level as the luxury suites, and enjoy the game from that perspective. The nice thing about enjoying the club level, it comes with a buffet at every game.
Seriously?
So you can go and enjoy a buffet, enjoy the game, sit indoors, sit outdoors, mingle with some friends.
That's kind of a no-brainer.
Absolutely. I think that will be just a fun place.
Do you have a question about skyboxes, though? 2 words. Okay, it's 1 word. Wi-Fi?
They are absolutely going to be connected to the world, and so they're going to have the very high-speed network in the stadium itself. You have to have today. It's a gathering place for the community, and so they want to ensure that the community has all of the amenities they're used to. You're going to have a lot of non-baseball fans come there.
I think that's going to be the case. That's one of the things we've heard about, and we've talked to, and I know surveys have gone out. People they go to these events and they say, oh, and by the way, there's a baseball game going on.
Absolutely.
It's one of those.
And we're fine with that. It's a gathering place.
All right, well, let's get back to the calls, 316-491-5787. We have our next caller. Is there or no? Sorry, I didn't get the name on this one. You are on the show. Go ahead. What's your question for Call the Mayor of Wichita?
We lost him.
Are you talking to me?
Yeah.
Yes. Hi, you are on the show live.
All right, great. I'm Jim Craig. I've been a long-time Wichita resident. I moved here in 1961. There was a downtown J.C. Penney, Montgomery Ward's, Woolworth's, Cress's, 5 or more theaters, and it just turned into a ghost town.
Right.
However, now people are moving back. Downtown is alive with lots and lots of people. Every big city I've been in that has been a living, good city was because they had people living downtown. We have achieved that. But how long are they going to stay if they have to continue driving 3 miles to get to the nearest grocery store? We have a wonderful building in the Gander Mountain building. I know you can't dictate who goes in there, but you do have some influence as a city council to maybe entice a Kroger or a Walmart to put in a store in the Gander Mountain. A full-service, large grocery store, maybe a health food store, and a Whole Food store, all under that one roof. You could have a cafe on the west wall with the windows overlooking the river, as you have mentioned before. Anyway, we need that before some of those people get tired of driving 3 miles to the nearest grocery store and start moving out. I'd love to see that happen.
Jim, thank you for the call.
Jim, thank you, and we may have to make Jim our honorary planner developer. And
that's
great
not
suggestions.
Bad. It's a good point. And
so we know
the building itself.
Yeah, absolutely. We know that there are some things like that in the works. I know there's some other folks looking at putting in a downtown grocer, and it's going to come. Developers aren't finished yet putting more apartments in. They're getting ready to build 200 apartments just south of the library.
To the south of that.
EPC out of Kansas City wants to invest in Wichita.
And that's new development.
Brand new development, and it's going to be mixed-use space on the first floor and apartments above it. Okay. They're talking about maybe putting in some apartments at the baseball village. So there's a number of other places.
Well, I think I saw that in some of the original renderings with the baseball village. It looked like there might have been some apartments, and I've looked at other baseball plans at other double and triple A stadiums, and apartments have been fairly popular in some of those spots.
Yeah, people want to be in the middle of the action.
Yeah, they do. Let's go ahead and take another call. I appreciate that call. Thank you, Jim, for that one. 316-491-5787. Don, you have a question about Century 2. Go ahead. You're on Call the Mayor.
Yeah, well, they going to tear it down too, down as well as downtown and everything else?
No, Don. There's no plans to tear down Century 2, and I think that we should look at what kind of repurpose potentially, or what can become of the fine arts in that building. I think there's, the bones of that structure are very good. There's a number of buildings that we've been able to keep. The Union Station's a great example of being able to keep an old building. Spaghetti Warehouse is another great example of being able to keep an old building and bring new life to it. And they've flipped it to apartments. There's some other buildings downtown that they've converted to apartments and repurposed them into other uses. The old Derby Refinery is now apartments. The Derby Refinery building, which was also the 259 headquarters at one time.
That's a big, tall building.
Kept that building and refurbished it and turned it into apartments, which is a repurpose. And so there's a number of buildings that we like to repurpose when we can. We would have repurposed remodeled the baseball stadium, but the concrete was failing to the point structurally that you just couldn't add on to it. So when we can save them, we save them. When we can't, we try and build something even better.
And let me ask you this too, because a developer asked me this question, it's just a couple of days ago. Said, look, are we getting more interest in building new with people that want to invest, or are we getting more interest in repurposing older buildings? Because old buildings have kind of a cool feel to them.
Sure.
Wherein lies the interest for one versus the other?
So it's a pretty good mix. Generally speaking, it's a little more expensive to go into an older building and update it and bring modern technologies to it, but it gets some uniqueness, and people typically like those better. And so we have a new group coming in, taking over the state office building, the Sutton Place, and the old Henry's building. They're in the process of refurbishing them, giving them new life, and that's going to be pretty nice to see. And that's something that's taking place right now. They just were approved for some special assessment facade programs that they're going to start at least on the outside, and then they're gutting all of the asbestos in the inside, and then they will start with their plan to rebuild those old buildings. And that's a great example of some other old buildings that some investors are able to save and repurpose and keep in our community. So I think we have a pretty good mix of old and in fact, there hasn't been that many new buildings that have been built.
It just comes to mind that, Cargill decided they wanted a nice new building. Sure. They have a nice new building. It looks great, by the way.
It is gorgeous, and that old newspaper where they were actually printing and officing just would not have worked to convert. And so they have a gorgeous facility in the heart of our city. But we have a pretty good mix of old and new.
Well, Facebook question, then we're going to take a call. Facebook, why wasn't the public allowed to vote on the stadium? Well, that's an interesting question. I think the answer is probably in many parts on this.
So it is, because the reality is the funding mechanisms that we put into place don't tax the public. And so there's not a new general tax for them to vote on. So at that point, I suppose we have the resources, we have the help from the state. Not sure why we would turn that down. The only vote would be, do you want it, do you not? Because there's nothing to vote on where you're taxed.
Money-wise with the tax. Yeah. Well, that's good answer. I appreciate that. Well, we are getting some calls, so let's get back to them. Tom, you're on the show. You have a question about speed limits. Welcome to the show.
Yes. Good evening. It's a pleasure to be on the show. The question is, would the city of Wichita would consider reducing the speed limit down Central between Hillside and Oliver to 30 miles an hour, have the residents have a wonderful experience, and to also reconstruct the North Broadview and East Central intersection to slow down the traffic and to designate the College Hill area as a National Historical residential area because it's old buildings, wonderful.
Great neighborhood. Great comments, good questions. I will tell you that I would encourage you to get with your council member in that district and work through some of those issues. They can help navigate, potentially changing the speed limit. There's a number of steps that we have to take to be able to do that. In some of those areas, it does make sense. We've changed speed limits on different roads over the years, and then as a rule in residential neighborhoods, the speed limit is 30, and so College Hill certainly serves that purpose. And so work with your council member. I believe that the majority of that area is Councilmember Claycomb, and so she'd be happy to visit with you. Trying to designate an entire neighborhood and put it on the historical registry is a difficult task to do, and not sure that's feasible.
Time consuming as well.
So time consuming and not sure that's feasible. But I love the neighborhood. My doctor lives in that neighborhood. It's a great neighborhood. People take a lot of pride in their homes there, and they're investing in that. I called her today the shadow mayor. She lives in
the
College.
Shadow mayor. Oh,
so Megan Lovely, who's an outstanding person, and
yes.
You know her well, and she does a great job. She lives in College Hill, but it's a great neighborhood. People really truly invest and enjoy it.
Well, and it was a good question. And I think there might be another question layered in here, so I'll go ahead and ask it for our caller. Maybe not, but I'll ask it anyway. Central's kind of a unique thing. You've got some businesses there, of course. You've got some homes there. You've got some gas stations there. When you get into a situation from, what do you say, like up to Hillside, I think at one point, when you've got varying different things there, how does the city approach, and I think I've talked to Gary Jansen about this, city engineer, but the city has to consider a lot of things when it comes to speed limits. There are a lot of facets here.
So safety is certainly a concern, that they take into the equation, but they actually do, it's a pretty defined way that they go about altering the speed limit, both in people that occasionally want to lower and people that want to increase it. It still goes through a process where they have to, look at all of the factors, but it's a little time consuming, but I guarantee you the council member would be happy to help navigate that.
Again, most of that's going to be Cindy Claycomb, so wichita.gov, check it out, send an email, and they do write you back. Trust me on that. Hey, 316-491-5787. You can ask the mayor anything you want. I'm still waiting for a basketball question. I assume that your bracket is completely busted at this point. Mine is about 50-50. I'm really happy with my bracket right now.
So I still have all of the Sweet 16 with the exception of 2 teams.
Okay, that ends the conversation.
So I have 14 out of 16 in the Sweet 16.
Blowing me away. That ends the conversation right there. You're better than me. Thank you very much. That's a good job.
Yeah.
Oh, I knew your basketball.
You get lucky once in a while.
I know sometimes. I'd rather be lucky than good. Is that the
phrase?
Yeah,
I think that's probably fair.
I'll take that. Shirley,
I'll take that too.
You are next on Call the Mayor of Wichita. You have a question about buildings. Go ahead. You're on the show.
Yes, I have a question. The city kept up the from the curbs to the homeowners' fences or property line. For instance, I know it's more areas than just Tyler, from 21st to 13th or Central there, but the homeowners, they don't keep that mowed, and the trash is bad. Where does that fall on? Do we find those people on mowing or?
Yeah, great question, and yes, that is the responsibility of the homeowners to take care of that space, what we call the easements between the curb and what would be oftentimes the fence line. Now the city will, and we have done this in many cases, the trees that are planted in that easement will go in oftentimes and take care of some dead and dying trees. We'll do some trimming where it becomes a hazard, and so we have crews that are available to do that, but general maintenance is the responsibility of the homeowner.
I guess the other thought there being too, a lot of people don't realize that easement is their responsibility.
Right.
And if it's not being taken care of, where does it get to be like an eyesore where you could call in and some action would be taken?
So we have neighborhood inspectors that if you call in and talk to just City Hall, if you call the mayor's office, they'll connect you with the department that will file a complaint, and we'll go out and measure it. If the grass is over a certain height, we will send a letter to the homeowner. If they don't get it mowed, the city will mow it and then assess them the fee to mow it. And then once you do that once a summer, that's all you have to do, because then the city will track that the rest of the summer. So anytime it gets over that designated height where they are forced to mow,
they'll drive by and take a look.
They'll drive by and take a look and go send the mowing crews. And so you really only have to do it once a summer, because we don't want people having to police their neighbors every time the grass gets too high. And so we'll do it once. We ask you to file a complaint once. The rest of the time, we'll make sure that they're on it. And usually once we do it once,
it kind of takes care of it.
Well, you know, because we don't mow as cheap as the homeowner to mow.
So get it taken care of. If they have to come out, well, he's not going to come out and do it, but somebody will come out and do it. Roy, you are on Call the Mayor Wichita. What is your question about parking?
Hi, Jeff. My question about parking is there a city code for how many parking spaces you need for
a business?
An assembly of 10,000 people, or however many are going to be in the ballpark?
So there is a city code that dictates how many parking spots that you have. It also regulates how many handicap spots you need to have. What I will tell you is we are putting in additional parking. We're going to put both surface parking and structured parking in around the ballpark. So there'll be plenty of parking. I don't want people to worry about parking. There will be plenty of parking at the ballpark, and those that want to park close to the stadium, there's going to be some great spots for you. If you want to park somewhere and walk in and enjoy, you know, the restaurants and amenities around there, there's going to be opportunity for you to do that. So we think there's going to be something for everyone, and they'll enjoy it, but there'll be plenty of parking spots.
Well, I'd be happy parking and taking the bus or
so that's a convenient way to get in and out.
It's a trolley.
Right. It's a free trolley.
It's fun though. It looks great. I love it.
It is fun.
We're
getting a lot of use.
We have another Facebook question. I'll go to this first before we get the next caller. 316-491-5787. This one is about the downtown area.
Right.
Why does Nofsker Park have an office building on it? Now that's an interesting question because again, there's a lot of development happening right there.
There is a lot of development. Actually, what we found out is when our city fathers put in that park years ago, they put the park in on private development land. And so the development's actually not on Nofsker Park. Nofsker Park used to be planted on private development land, and so they had to change the boundaries of the park because someone obviously couldn't read a survey when that park went in some 40 or 50 years ago. And so they it required us to make some changes which needed to be made anyways. The mission of that park certainly has changed over the years.
Indeed.
It's a gathering place now, and because the arena's there, it's going to be used for pre and post arena functions, and great place for the community to gather. It's going to have, you know, a great place for people to enjoy some different amenities that they currently don't have down there. They're talking about potentially putting in a little stage area, grass area for pets.
You could do movies out there on weekends.
Absolutely. We could, you know, have Craig Andre's singing night, karaoke night. There you go.
Not going. I will do karaoke, but not by myself.
I'll work on that one.
Okay. 316-491. Wait, I'll duet if you want to go.
Yeah, I'm not sure they want to hear me.
Okay. Well, it's worth a shot. 316-491-5787. Joe, you are on Call the Mayor Wichita. You've got a question. Go ahead.
Thank you. I just wonder who's going to pay for the entertainment, the art museum, and our property tax is going to be raised, the sales taxes, and the water plant. You're going to come back later on and say, oh, we spent all this money for these things, and now we don't have enough money for the water plant. Or is that's going to be raising our taxes higher?
So great question, and I'm glad you asked because it gives us an opportunity to share. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, we have 60 additional police officers than we had 3 years ago, which is a $6 million increase to the budget. We did it without raising taxes. Baseball stadium's paid for without raising taxes on you. The art museum is funded without raising taxes. The water treatment plant that we need to build because it's outlived, the old one's outlived its ability to serve this community, is going to be covered with the cost of the water and sewer charges and the revenue we get from that. And we had a long debate about that because initially staff wanted to pay for that new water treatment plant over just a 10-year span of time. And the reality is we pushed back and said, look, we don't want to put the cost of that on one generation. And so we said, let's look at it in what we've coined now generational equity. And let's potentially move that out over 30 years. And so what that will do is it will pay for it with as little as 3 to 4% rate increases instead of 8 to 10% rate increases. And so it's the generations that will use that over time will start paying for that instead of just one generation paying for it now. And so we are very aware that we don't want to get into people's pockets, and I'm proud of the fact that we haven't had to raise taxes. And last year, as we assessed where we were at, we ended up with $2.5 million more in revenue last year than we expected. So our budget's in really good shape. We also were able to put more money into our unencumbered cash reserves. We now have $34 million in unencumbered cash reserves in this city. Which we keep it there so that we can get better bond rates, better interest rates.
And that's desperately needed for the rates that you pay, which is money out of your taxes.
Absolutely.
If your rate is higher,
so
money
financially we're in really great shape, and we don't have to place additional burdens on this community, and we shouldn't. I'm one of those that's not fond of taxing people additionally.
Nobody wants to pay taxes.
Absolutely.
We all do. Facebook question, then we go to another call. We do have some calls. Keep calling, 316-491-5787. How can we eliminate all the garbage around downtown? And I will say this, I noticed a group picking up garbage around, what was it, 3rd and Main the other day, just people with trash bags. I don't know who they were. They just looked like volunteers. They had little orange vests on. They weren't city workers.
So we do have a lot of different civic groups that are picking up trash. We know that we have another always annual day where Cargill brings together volunteers and as many as 1,500 people that come and pick up trash. We continue. Of course, our crews pick up trash, but we live in a city where it has to deal with a lot of wind. And when you have a lot of wind, it tends to blow trashes out of trash cans. We may have trash that's been blown in from 20 miles away, and so it's difficult when it's windy to sometimes take care of those issues. But we have a lot of groups that care deeply and are involved in cleanup.
I forgot, Kansas has wind.
Kansas has a little bit of wind.
I forget. All right, we have another question. This one is about riding bikes in Wichita. Go ahead, you're on Call the Mayor Wichita. What is your question?
Hi, this is Gary Hagman. Hello, Mayor.
Hi.
Hey, I was on my way to work this morning, and it was a 4-lane street in North Wichita, and in the right lane was a bicyclist, probably out in the middle of the lane, and I was in the left lane, and there's too many dangerous situations in traffic to have bicycles in the street. Why aren't they on the sidewalk?
So
there was nobody on the sidewalk. Why shouldn't they? Why couldn't they be up there?
It's a good question. I've heard that question before,
Right.
and I've even talked to the chief of police about this one. Go ahead.
So there are bike laws that doesn't require them to be on the sidewalk, but Gary, I understand the frustration when I ride bikes, and I ride them with obviously some mutual friends of ours. We always ride on the sidewalk because we don't want to get run over by somebody texting. But the bikes do have the ability to ride in the street, but they're supposed to be in the curb lane, and so they're not supposed to be out in the middle of the street, and the rules do state that they have to be so close to the curb.
Okay, well, we have another question here about Veterans Park downtown. Dan, you are on Call the Mayor Wichita. What is your question? Dan, you are on the show. You have a question for the mayor. Go ahead, Dan.
Yes, I was wondering if he could look into with the Marine, check with the Marines and see if they could have that flag replaced over by the river.
Well, I'm sorry, to have what replaced?
To have the flag, the Marine flag replaced.
Marine flag replaced.
Yes, up by the river.
Okay.
Who's in charge of that? I have no idea.
So Veterans Park is maintained by the veterans. And so I'll check with them. I'm actually going to be at an event tomorrow night. We were scheduled to be at Veterans Park, but unfortunately with the forecast, we've moved it to some indoor space right there at Murdoch and Main. And so I'll ask them about that. The park's maintained by a fantastic group of veterans that work hard. And now our public parks department gets in there and helps them from time to time. And we have a really good working relationship with the veterans over there. But I'll ask them about that flag, because when flags get beat up and torn, they do need to be replaced.
Matter of respect.
Absolutely.
All right, we have another question. Ron, you are on Call the Mayor Wichita. You have a question about smoking. Go ahead.
Yes, I know the youth came up there to City Hall here a while back, and they had asked if you could vote on banning smoking in our city parks. How are we doing on that anyway?
So we haven't heard from any groups that have asked us to ban smoking in city parks. It's something that may be brought forward at some point in time. I know that you can't smoke in any of the public places anymore indoors. That's been a statewide ban. We initiated some ban in many of the indoor spaces, whether they were owned by the city or just privately owned, but if they were public space, you couldn't smoke. And then the state followed suit and put in really a more restrictive ban. And so I think you're going to continue to see some of those issues evolve over time, where might be a situation where people will only be allowed to smoke in the privacy of their home.
I think a lot of people nowadays might be okay with that.
Yeah, that may be true.
Apologies to smokers. But
right.
All right, we have, I noticed coming into work today, I hit a sandy spot in the road because we've got to put salt and sand down. I know that we're going to be in the process of removing that, but Harris has kind of a similar question. Harris, you are on Call the Mayor. What is your question? Harris, go ahead. It's my understanding, Harris, you wanted to ask about grass clippings and keeping those out of gutters if you are still there.
I kind of hear them in the background.
I do.
Hey, hello.
Hi. Yeah, you're with us.
Okay, I'm sorry. Some youth that came up there, and they had photographs in our city parks of all the cigarette butts around in like 5 different parks that you looked at. You remember the youth coming up there with the photographs?
Oh, sure.
Well, that's the ones that were asking if they could vote on a ban on the city parks. You remember that?
So I haven't had any requests come in terms of a policy on a ban, but yes, I do remember those conversations.
Yeah, the youth had a request, though, didn't they?
I don't know that they put in a formal request yet.
Oh, I see. It's just what they were doing was not formal. So, and I think, and I'm not sure, they might have been with the Tobacco Free Wichita Coalition.
Yeah.
And they might have had something to do with the photograph. So I'll try to get with them and see if we can find out what we do to make it formal, and then you guys can look at that maybe then.
Sure, we can have those discussions. I think, as I said before, you're going to see some of these issues evolve, continue to evolve, and maybe the right time now to have that discussion.
That may be. That may be. Look, I'm very excited about a lot of the downtown things that are happening. It's good to see the regional partners getting so excited about downtown. One of those things is Union Station. It's nice to see some life in there again.
Oh, absolutely.
Let's go to the next caller. Yeah. Carmen, you have a question about Union Station. You are on Call the Mayor.
Sounds like we lost
that's not a good sign. No, that is not. Call back, Carmen.
I've
we got
heard
a little
that tone before.
But Union Station, you know, it's happening.
It is. They're doing it in phases. They're already advanced to phase 3. You're going to see, you know, some pretty neat opportunities that exist over there that I think the community can really get behind. There's great gathering places right now at Union Station. They have 700 jobs that's come into the building. That's going to add more life to downtown and more opportunities for the bars and restaurants that exist in that area. And so those are the kinds of things that make Wichita livelier and bring life to the community, and people enjoy it.
I'm just happy that finally got some of the pigeons out from under the bridge next to.
So that really is a
pet peeve of mine, but it was taken care of.
Absolutely. They did a nice job of taking care of that.
They did. They got that mesh up so they can't get up under there, and they don't live there.
Not going to have that problem anymore.
Connie, you are on Call the Mayor, Wichita. What is your question?
Still lost her.
Well, okay. I was going to ask about, I'm told was going to ask about adding green space downtown. Is that part of the plan? Is that part of a master plan at this point?
Absolutely, and that's a great point, and that's something that we're trying to focus on. So when we talk about the river corridor,
yes,
that's the perfect place to look at adding some green space and gathering places. And so the plan right now is to focus from Kellogg, maybe potentially up to about Expiration Place. But I'd like to see us take that from Kellogg all the way to 13th Street and provide us some great green space, gathering space for the community to enjoy. We need to plug in more of those opportunities where we can.
Well, I love that. And I made the walk recently. Okay, jog, but it ended up being a walk. Went from the Keeper on one side and then went up to, oh boy. Well, I guess I went all the way as far as I could up to Kellogg, then came back on the other side. And the green space question, I brought up to a friend of mine. I said, could we add some more green spaces here? Does it make sense, or should there be development in that? I know that within the baseball part of things down there, we'd like to keep some green space.
And we are.
We're dedicating that. Is that written down somewhere? That's kind of set in stone?
Yeah, it is set in stone. And so all of the river corridor will remain green space.
Okay,
all the way up to McLean Boulevard.
Up to McLean. It was, you know, what is next for you? I know that we've got the State of the City out there. I like it. So go ahead and click on, where can we find this? Wichita.gov, I guess.
Right, Wichita.gov. You can click on that and find State of the City. We'll play it on our Channel 7, and you'll see some replays on different opportunities for State of the City. And that's why we did it in that format. So it's not just a one and done event. You'll be able to view it at your own pleasure.
Which is awesome. I will say this too. I like some of the takeaways of showing Wichita, showcasing Wichita. Shows that Wichita has a little swagger. People do like being from here now, which is great to see. Do you have any plans to kind of push this out to other cities, to showcase this in other cities where we might draw some workers to Wichita?
That's a great idea. We'll look at that.
Okay.
I haven't thought of that.
There you go. One other question before we go, and we are about out of time. Thanks for watching again. We do appreciate you being here. You can call next time on Call the Mayor Wichita. One other question. Have you picked a championship team in the NCAAs? And I know the Shockers could win the NIT, so that's who I'm pulling for.
So how exciting is that, though, to have Wichita State get as far as they've gotten, and it brings pride to the community. So in the NCAAs, I picked Duke, probably not because I like them. I just thought that they were the most talented team.
They probably are the most talented team at this point.
So we'll see. But it's a fun time of year, brings people out.
Well, there you have it. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again next time on Call the Mayor Wichita.